You can move around or any seats, other places. First of all, I want to begin by just praising God for giving me the strength to do that 8 days. It was not easy. The airplane ride was 26 hours going, 30 hours coming back. 15 of those was without landing. But I was amazed at what God did in me to be able to do that. Our work days were from 9 o'clock in the morning till 6:30. I stood up, I worked the whole time for 4 days in a row. And that's not me, that's God. Amazing it was, and I praise Him for that. I want to thank Common Ground Bible Church for allowing me to go on your behalf. I know that you probably know that each Sunday that you give in this bucket, it will go to do what I did and to help people that you will see their faces today. One of those charities that you donate to is Wipe Every Tear, and I will be talking about that as we go through. But that organization takes girls out of prostitution, sends them to school. Some of them gives them jobs. And the truth is, in the Philippines, if you can educate one person and give them a good job, you can save the whole family. Because usually the income is by one person. So that's why you see a woman prostituting herself to feed her little kids, to feed her old mom and dad, sometimes to feed her lazy brothers. But you will see that. The other organization that we give to is Rev 22. And Rev 22 is a church downtown with beliefs like ours. I was just delighted. I got a chance to really talk to some people and find out what their beliefs are, and they're like ours. So that's okay. Rev 22 sends money to a church that I will be showing you in the pictures. And that church is Friends of Christ. And that church has a scholarship program. And in that scholarship program, they take one child out of a poverty-stricken family, and I'll be showing you some of their homes. And they take that child, they buy that child uniforms, they pay the fees for that kid, and every week, if the parents show up at church, they get food for the week, they get money for that child's lunch at school. That's one of the things that are, in fact, all of our money to Rev 22 goes to that program, that scholarship program. A miraculous thing that we are able to do in that place, and I praise God for that. I want to thank also Common Ground Biker Church for the fact that you financed part of my trip, and I so appreciate that. And I want to thank the leadership for allowing that, for voting to do that. I don't know if you all know who our leadership is, or are. Leadership is. But I'd like to introduce them. If you guys who are on the leadership would stand up. Some people are new and they're new faces, and you may not know who our leadership is. If our leadership people would stand up. So this is Julie.
Stand up, Julie.
Kevin. The short one back there, you can hardly see Lisa. Beside her is Jeff. Carol over here. And Rich. And they are the ones that decided to help finance my trip. The trip cost $2,250.
And a portion of Jennifer's.
And the church did a portion of Jennifer's, our daughter, who is a nurse practitioner who went also. There were a couple things that I was impressed with right off the bat before I even got to really get into the clinical side that we ministered in. But we slept on the 3rd floor of a church that you will see in open air. That in itself was something else. And Before I left, I was concerned about mosquitoes because with the virus, the Zika virus that they have in the Philippines, I wasn't pregnant, thank goodness, but I still didn't. But I still didn't want fever in Malaysia. So I found out later on, Willie specifically prayed for no mosquitoes, and I did not see one mosquito. So we slept on the third floor of this church. Again, one of the miraculous things God did in my life, I slept on the floor on a mat about this thick, and the stairs going up to the third floor were about this wide, and there was no regulations on the height of the steps. Some were this high and some was this high, and 3 floors up. And I did it numbers of times each day, and every time I'd say, praise God, when I get to the top. But the first morning that we were there, I looked out the bars that were around on the window openings. There were no windows, there were just openings with bars on them. And I looked out, and across the street, there was a 3-story building similar to ours, and there was no distance between each building. It was just bang, 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 building right together. And I noticed, and we're in a poverty-stricken area called Navotas. Across this little narrow street was 3 stories of a house that had flowers growing in pots on each floor. And I thought, in the United States, if we had people this poverty-stricken, there'd been no flowers. There would only been complaining and sadness. There was hope in those flowers. When I saw that, I thought, those people have hope. And the next building was 3 floors, and there was one of the floors had a gym set up on it. There was a bag, punching bag, there was a treadmill. And I thought, people don't plant flowers and exercise their body if they don't have hope. So I had a really good feeling about this. And I don't know if you remember when I went to Haiti, the oppression and the demonic heaviness I felt in that place. There was none of that in the Philippines. It was hope and smiles, and it was a totally different atmosphere. So on a lot of these faces I saw hope, and you'll see that too. So if we can get started with our pictures. The first night that we arrived there, we stayed in a place called ONG. It was a privately owned facility for missionaries that are coming through, spending some time there, and they rented rooms very cheaply. Clean rooms, nothing plush, but clean rooms, and they provided our meals for 2 days. And that's the garden outside of that facility. This is the road going up to that facility, and it was just can you guys see these? Are you able to discern what's going on? The first day that we woke up there, actually it was our beginning of our first day, the next day. When we got up, we had a devotional, and our daughter actually led the devotional, and she had been out in the garden praying before starting the devotional, and she got a word of knowledge for the girl with her hands over her face like this. And the word was that God's going to do a work in you this week, and some questions you have are going to be answered. Well, as we go through, you're going to see what God did in her life. But there we were praying for her that morning during the devotional time. More of the same. This is just my beginning of seeing what I had no idea was about. And why I took this picture, I'm not really sure. But this is Toyota, and everybody drove Toyotas. If you drove anything of a car, most people didn't. That was the pharmacy. That's where we went to get some of the drugs that we used that we did not carry. We carried most of the drugs. So what I went there for was a clinic, 4 days of clinic. And this was the first time that they had carried a pharmacist with them. And so we ordered most of our medicine in the United States from a place called International Drug. And cheap drugs, big bottles. But we were only able to treat a narrow margin of diseases because everybody had head lice, and there is no need to treat head lice when you're going to go home and your pillow and your rugs are full of head lice. So we carried mostly antibiotics, a lot of topical creams and things like that because there's a lot of skin stuff going on.
Well,
Yes.
maybe you should explain, because many people may not know it, but by trade you are a pharmacist.
By trade, I am a pharmacist.
Retired, but
For a long time. So that's where we went to buy the medicine that we needed that we didn't carry. We were able to do some really resourceful things, help some people who couldn't get medicine long term. Medicine was cheap there, and we carried cheap medicine too. Means of transportation, there were many means of transportation. You saw the Toyota. This is a bus. They call these jeepneys. I don't know. I think they said that it was a Jeep that had an extended back end on it, and you just kind of crawled in the thing. Jeepney again. Okay, this is where they live. This is their homes. And we ministered in 2 different towns. One was Navotas, where Friends of Christ Church is. The other was Paradise Village, which was anything but paradise. We gradually went from okay to poor as we traveled. So the church in Navotas had built the church in Paradise Village. This was on the way to Paradise Village. And this is businesses and homes. That's good. That was uptown. More of the same, just businesses. And when you look into these places, they were just dark holes. More homes, more businesses. More homes, more businesses. Just down the street, this was a restaurant. Just out on the street. This is the front of Friends of Christ Church. It was such a bright place. It was freshly painted and people just gathered up there every day. There was nothing going on, but people just gathered up. And these children played in the street out front with a stick and a plastic bottle all day long. That's what they did to entertain themselves. When they weren't in school, they were out in these streets playing with sticks and plastic bottles. You didn't see any of this stuff. That again is out in front of the church. A shot down the street in front of the church. And look at the electrical wires. Just a maze of, you would have wondered how any electricity got down them. More of the kids. There were kids everywhere, and they just want to touch you and feel you and smile at you and hug you, and they all had head lice. So you tried in your mind to overcome that and show the love of God. That was a means of transportation. It's a little metal cart that is attached to a bicycle. It'll carry 2 people. Out in the middle of the traffic with the buses, beep, 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 beep. Just taking your life in your own hands, but it cost probably 20 cents to ride in this vehicle. This was in the church. You will see the inside of 2 different churches. This was the larger church. This is a church that we lived on the 3rd floor of. This is just some of the gathering that happened during the day. The girl you see there in the green, her name was Casey. And Casey had come out of the prostitution circle. She lived in Wipe Every Tear. And the first morning that I met her, she was one of our interpreters and was assigned to us to travel with us. The first morning that I met her was in the place where we were praying for the lady. And she was just sitting there, and I moved over beside her, and so I said, "What's your name?" And she told me, and I said, "So how long have you?" I said, "Are you in the Wipe Every Tear program?" And I didn't want to ask questions like, "Are you a prostitute?" I wanted to be sensitive to where she had come from, and so I was very careful how I worded my questions. And so, how long have you been in the program? And 18 months, and she could tell, I guess, that I was beating it around the bush, and she said, "Do you want to know my story?" Wow. And she just brightened up. And I said, "If you would tell me your story, I want to know your story." And she began to tell me how she was saved out of prostitution. And she said, "God has been so faithful to me. He has been right there all the time." And I noticed that she was wearing this sweatshirt. You didn't need a sweatshirt for sure. And I said, "Why don't you take your sweatshirt off?" She said, "Oh, I'm not properly dressed." Under this, she had just a little t-shirt. And she had become so modest about herself that she wouldn't even take her sweatshirt off because she had on just a little strapless t-shirt. And I thought, oh my gosh, we run around all the time in strapless and little strap t-shirts, But she would not, because she had a new view of what covering your body meant now and what exposing your body meant. Sweet, sweet, sweet girl. She sat one day with me in church and rubbed my hand. I don't guess she'd ever seen old veins in a hand before. And just would rub my hand, and she looked at my ring and she said, "Someday I will have a husband who will treat me good, and I will have a ring." And you guys are helping to bring her out of that. And 80 others. 80 other women. These ladies were just ladies in the church who showed up every morning at that church and cooked for us all day long. We ate so much rice, you cannot believe it. There was rice 3 meals a day for breakfast and dinner and supper and rice. But these ladies were in this very primitive kitchen cooking 3 meals a day. Showed up there smiling and just delighted to be there, and were servants to us all day long. That's one of the pastor's granddaughters. The pastor and his wife was, whoa, she was everywhere doing everything, and it put me to shame. Just a tower of strength. And I went there thinking, these people are not probably really smart, but they are smart. They're energetic, they're ingenious, there's nothing failing about them. They're just in a bad place right now in their lives. But pastor, his wife, 7 children, a son-in-law, and 3 grandchildren live in a space probably not any bigger than this room, on the 3rd floor of the church. Everybody could sing. All the Filipinos could sing beautifully. One morning we woke up to this beautiful voice singing, and our space was joining the pastor's space on the 3rd floor. It was one of his daughters just singing to the top of her voice beautifully. They all played instruments, and this is what's going on here, just singing and playing. It just happened sporadically all the time. This little girl became my sidekick. Everywhere I went, she was right there. And when she came, she looked for me. I don't know why. Certain kids attach themselves to certain people.
Which one, the right or left?
The one in the blue.
Okay.
Sweet, sweet, sweet girl. We were all sweet. Okay. And I don't know what this means. You get your camera out and they go. These 3 girls attached themselves to our daughter, Jennifer. And Jennifer had been there last year, a year ago, and these 3 girls were there then. Mama Jennifer coming back. Headlights galore. The two with the longer hair in the back were in school. The one in the front, her name is Charity. Charity was not allowed to go to school, so she would be available to her grandmother to settle her. Jennifer and her 3 sidekicks. Ladies, do you recognize these? The ladies, I know that you all who read the newsletter know that there's a group of ladies from the church that get together one Saturday a month and make pillowcase dresses. And I took 28 of those pillowcase dresses with me. We sent 40 to orphanage in Mexico. We are now making however many we can to go to Kenya with our son-in-law and granddaughter. But this is some of the dresses. And when we gave them these dresses, I guess they realized more of their condition than I thought. And they asked to have a shower before they put the dresses on. So see that little door right there? That was our bathroom. It had a toilet and a 5-gallon bucket in it. That was the shower, the sink, and the toilet. All in a space of maybe 6 by 4. Our shower was a 5-gallon bucket of water that you soaked up. Then you took dippers and you poured them over yourself. And it ran on the floor and down the drain. And the toilet didn't flush. You filled up the 5-gallon bucket and poured it in there and it flushed. But that was way, way, way better than some of the places you'll see. So they got their shower and they got their new dresses. The little girl in the red one, who is Charity, after that moment I never saw her in anything else except that dress. It's Jennifer brushing their hair. Just a little face on a very poor street, growing up forever in that cycle unless somebody helps them out of it. Look, happiness on their faces. That's where she lived. Behind, that's just the street she lived on. That's the same street she lived on. People would go to like the Salvation Army and get free clothes or donated clothes, and then they would take them to their house and hang them up and hope somebody would buy them. I don't know that anybody bought them because they could just go get free clothes themselves, but just trying to make a nickel. This was actually on the way to a place called the Bridge. They said under the bridge, but it really wasn't under the bridge, it was by the bridge. But this was a street on the way to that area. And we went there the first day that we were in Navotas to pass out flyers about the clinic the next day. Everywhere you were, there was just a crowd of people, and they gathered just all around you, just to touch you and look at you. I don't know where we collected this lady in yellow, but she was with us the whole day. We went to pass out flyers, screaming at people, giving directions and orders. The girl next to her is Marley. Marley is another one that you have helped save out of prostitution. Marley attached herself to me. I don't know if she thought I was old and couldn't make it or what, but when we went across the street, she grabbed my hand and away we'd go. And when I had a fanny pack, and when it was unzipped a little bit, she would reach and zip it up, so keep your stuff zipped up. Yes, ma'am. Her name was Marley. Marley was 28 and is soon to graduate from the program, having finished college. Some of them, they give them a job. and they become house parents or heads of houses, and much like Chrysalis is done. These three little guys just were almost to under the bridge, they called it, and they just followed me along. Wanted their pictures taken, just wanted to be there. More little faces. More little faces. Casey again. More little faces. Myself and Marley. This lady was doing her wash with a scrub board and a bucket down on the side of the road. This way, along that concrete wall you see there, was tin, cardboard, any kind of wood they could scavenge up, and that was their homes. The man back there behind on the hat with the red hat, that's a mattress that he and his family are living on until they can find enough junk to lean up against the wall to get them out of the weather. That was right across the path, or what they call it, the street, I guess, from where you just saw the woman washing her clothes. This is where her children play. This is the man that led our group. This is the 6th group that he's led, and each one he has perfected a little more. And he said this one was the best he'd done. It ran smoothly, it was well organized, no glitches whatsoever, and there was many details to be worked out. Like I said, we did 4 clinics. We did 1 clinic at the Wipe Every Tears facility with just the women who are in that program. We did 1 clinic in this church. We did another clinic in the church out in Paradise Village. And then after I left, there was another clinic for people who returned from the first visit. That's Jake. He attends Rev 22 downtown. This is the church. This is Friends of Christ Church. That's their pastor. Narrow little building, probably seated 120 people. Had a balcony. On the balcony, they had preschool for 30 children. Marley and me. Little kids just hanging themselves all over Jake there. That was one of the deacons of the church and his wife. And again, Casey, her smiling face. You know, you would have thought she would have been downtrodden, but she was hopeful and praising God and full of faith. That's the pastor and one of his grandchildren, or her children. Just another picture of the church. Oh, that actually is a video. Can we play that?
I'm not sure.
That's it.
We don't have time with you.
This is praise and worship at this church. The praise and worship is in English. At Paradise Village, it was all in Filipino.
Kevin, do you have the volume on that? Because it's coming through the speaker.
We don't have everything play hooked up right. I'll post it all on Facebook, so if you guys who can't see it very well, I'll post it on the Common Ground Facebook later today or tomorrow.
That's Casey with her hands up there. This was Sunday morning worship. That's 2 nurses. They were with us. They're from St. Al's, man and wife. Just a face. Not just a face, but a face. This lady that I was telling you about earlier that I would tell you more about, she was scary out of her mind. She had never done anything like this, and she just had ventured out to do that, and could feel it in her demeanor. She was uptight and scared. And after we prayed for her that morning, she just relaxed and began to just be what God had sent her there to be, and loved those people. And she worked with me in the pharmacy, and she'd never worked in a pharmacy before, but I gave her instructions as to what to do. She did everything I said, did it perfectly, was full of love, and just she said all the anxiety and the fear just went away from her after that prayer that day. She was amazing.
That's on the balcony of the church.
Yeah, that's okay, go ahead. Can we go now to the other set of pictures? Where's your time? That's our daughter, looking at her phone. That's the inside of the OMG building that we stayed in the first night. That temple back there, they were everywhere. The major religion in the Philippines is Roman Catholic Church. This is the next. This is Iglesia de Cristo. Iglesia de Cristo does not believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. They believe that God just created him, and that God sent him here and empowered him to do miracles. They do not believe in the Trinity. They believe that we are a part of the apostate church, and they are the church. They believe if you do not tithe, you're not saved. They believe if you're not baptized, you're not saved. And it's rampant. These temples were everywhere. And they were not cheap buildings. That's the outside of OMG. That's one of our debriefings in the morning after having ministered the day before. That's our basketball goal. Would our kids play with a basketball goal like that? Would you let them play with a basketball goal like that? And yet they would play at that all day long. Just here we are walking to a market, and we had a certain amount of money, 9,000 pesos, that we were going to spend to make bags of groceries for the scholarship program parents to pick up on Sunday when they came to school, came to church. 75 bags we made. So we went to buy rice as one of the ingredients for those bags. When we went to the rice market, there's all kinds of rice. And there was a lady that just approached us and was telling us about the rice, as if the pastor needed to know about what kind of rice. But anyway, she was doing what she thought was good. And so she told us, for what you need, how much do you want to buy? And we said 9,000 pesos. And she said, okay. She took the pesos. She disappeared. She did not work for the company. We thought she did. They thought she was with us. And she just took our 9,000 pesos and went away. You know, and all of us were saying, why would somebody do that? And the leader of our group said, possibly she needed it worse than we did. You know, checked our attitude real fast. It's a sweet face. This lady sweeping the streets, that's the street sweeper in Navotas. You'd hear her in the morning, out there with the broom, sweeping the street. And she was glad to have that job, real glad. Just a little abandoned face. That's the traffic going into Manila. And Manila is a very huge, 15 million, I think, people. Traffic flying everywhere. No street lights. Beep, beep, beep. You know, turn across 3 lanes of traffic. Just us inside of a jeepney.
Yeah.
There was a bunch of monkeys hanging over that bar, but you didn't turn loose the bar because you'd be thrown to the floor. It was just crazy driving. And you just went in there and sit down and call that out. Or the jeepney. That's the driver of the jeepney that we were riding at that particular time. That's the way you got in it. That's one of our interpreters, also one of the girls out of Wipe Every Tear. Her reflection in the mirror. This lady, her name is Rebecca. She is the woman in charge of those 80 women. Amazing woman. She has the capabilities, she's an engineer, she has the capabilities of making a lot of money. She chose to abandon all of that to be the mother of 80 women and Wipe Every Tear. And Becky, she's single, she's devoted herself to a single, celibate life for God. One more. This is us on the way to a karaoke bar where women are sold and bought. And all they had in this bar, they called it a bar, but it really wasn't a bar, it was just a hole in the wall with a karaoke machine. And that was the inroad into introducing a man to a woman. And they didn't go to a fancy hotel, they went in a little closet right over there. It's Becky and one of her girls. That's Casey telling me her story. So I'm getting the cut it sign over here. So we had, I wish I could have shown you more of the clinic, but we had, it looked like mass chaos, but it was very structured and very organized. The people came in and there were lines of people early in the morning to see us. There was a dentist, there was triage for the medical, there was a nurse, pediatric nurse who saw children, there was a nurse practitioner who saw adults, another nurse practitioner who saw adults, the pharmacy, and before they came to the dentist, they had to go through one-on-one hearing the gospel. And it was their people that were sharing the gospel, not us. They'd been trained in the church that you saw. They had their paperwork out. They were checking off what was going on. We saw 519 patients and 170 salvations out of that. So to do the health care was a great thing. It was a wonderful service, but that 170 was what it was all about. And thank you again.
Thank you, Belita. Good report. I wish we could have just let her go on for the whole time, but we need to see what God's got to say out of this word this morning. Be a short sermon. Don't think I'm going to take the whole another hour, okay?